Hi, would you mind telling me your name?
Okay, my name is Fungayi Mandonga, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So my poster is about a project that we did last year, a small research project. So what we wanted to find out was just how differences in culture affect the support that's being given to autistic adults in Birmingham, within the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to
So the cultural backgrounds of the families those individuals are from, or?
So so we're looking at what happens is, because this was done in Birmingham. Birmingham is a very multicultural city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard of it.
So quite often the person who's delivering support is from a different cultural background from the person who's receiving
Mm-hmm.
support. So we wanted to see the experiences of the people delivering the support, how they navigated those cultural differences. So if I was supporting you, how would I manage the cultural differences?
Oh, I'm easy. I'm German. You just bring beer. No, just kidding. I actually don't bring beer at all.
So what we found was that quite often things like culture, religion, a family's role also played quite a part.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you can imagine, that being the United Kingdom, the services are very much designed from a Western focus. So the idea of what independence is, because these were services that were helping people become more independent. They were living in accommodation that was provided by the organization for 2 years.
Yeah.
And during those 2 years, they build up the skills to be able to live independently and move from that accommodation, completely independent accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we found quite often was that the support staff themselves were sometimes struggling to bridge that gap in terms of culture, because people's understanding of independence is different.
I would probably expect that an Indian family has a very different idea than a Western European.
Yes, and that was also the whole idea of what role a family plays in someone's life. So usually, let's say in the UK, once someone reaches a certain age, the family is expecting you to start looking at moving out, having your own house, finding a job. But some families from other cultures were looking at someone developing the skills to be able to live better with the family. They were not necessarily looking for that kind of independence. They're looking for it's more like developing the skills to live collaboratively with other people.
Mm-hmm.
We also found that quite often the services were making a simple distinction to say, you are from this background, the support worker is from this background, this person is from this background, and putting them together, and that didn't always work.
Mm-hmm.
So people from the same background, that wasn't always the best way to do it, just ethnic or culturally matching people. What we found was it was better for people to get to know each other, to get to know the autistic adult, and we were able to build better relationships and be able to work. At the same time, there were a few what we could call ethical issues.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes these support workers are being asked to do things that set outside of their roles. For example, we had someone where the person they were supporting, one of these courts here, decided to change their religion, and it was a big thing for the family, but this autistic adult expected the support worker then to step in and go and talk to the family to say the person has decided to change their religion. Or where you had situations where people had certain beliefs themselves as support workers and were expected to then do things that set outside of their own beliefs. So we're looking at how they balance that. What we found was quite a lot. There was no guidance that they were being given. There was not enough support for these support workers to overcome those differences. And quite often, it was up to the support worker to be able to almost make the service fit into the needs of the autistic adults. The services were very rigid. It was up to the support workers to bring in that level of flexibility. So we thought to ourselves, maybe they needed a bit more training, but this training needed to also look at the cultural side of things, and that matching could be a lot better, and they needed more support from their managers, because quite often the job could be quite distressing, because it was working one-on-one with someone and it was over quite a period of time, and they were not really getting the support. The support they were getting were from their peers. We found that peer support was very valuable, and also the fact that the their peers were also providing them with that cultural knowledge that they needed. So if they're working with someone in there that shared a background with maybe a member of the team, the member of the team was able to then support them to be able to do that, but not the organization. The organizations were a bit, they were just given, this is your job, this is what you need to do. But the nuances of doing the job, the little everyday things, they were needing to navigate them themselves or to get support from their own colleagues to do that. And sometimes the autistic adults themselves were supporting them and they valued that. Yeah.
Which is a valid approach, I think.
Yes.
I think I've even saw a poster presentation just on that. That was like, it was a living facility where the autistic inmates would get to hire their own staff.
Yes.
Or would decide who of the staff would
work with them.
Yeah.
So in this service, so when someone is working with someone, and if the autistic adult felt like I cannot work with this person, they would change it. But we thought there could be a more systematic way of doing it, if that makes sense, because it was almost like, why don't we do this assessment where we are able to identify who works better with you? Why are they're allocating someone and it doesn't work, and then that's when they come and ask him and say, okay, this didn't work, what did you really want? Which seems to be an unnecessary distress for the person who's receiving support, probably the person delivering support, because we're only human and you might feel a bit rejected. So we thought the assessments needed to be better, and for them to put that into place. Because what we found also was when people shared a background, there was a worry that you might almost like tell my secrets to other people. Mm-hmm. So if I've got certain things I'm doing, so when people coming from really traditional backgrounds, but this person has made a decision, maybe they drink, maybe they're doing something that doesn't necessarily sit well. If they were being supported by someone from the same background as them, they didn't want that because they felt that could go back. But if they had someone from a completely different background, that tended to be so much better, and they were able to be more open and they could be helped in a much better way. So the matching needed to be a bit more on many other grounds rather than we shared a similar background. It needed to look at the person, like the whole person, and what the person wanted, and then they could be matched that way.
That's interesting, but not necessarily surprising, because I think, like if the caregiver and the caretaker are of the same background, then the caregiver might make assumptions, which tends to not work that well for autistic people.
Because one of these was when someone was really interested in their religion, and they were given someone from a similar background, from a similar religion, but this person found that they were out of their depth because the way the person was interpreting the religion was different from the way they were looking at it. And it would have probably been so much better that someone else who probably didn't know the religion explored with this autistic adult together and worked with them to say, let's look at all the resources that are out there, let's find out a bit more. Because this person had gone in with already their assumptions that I know exactly what this person is. So you are right that sometimes assumptions get in the way of something that could be quite fun. Yeah.
All right, thank you for giving me an overview of your project.
No, thank you. It's been very interesting talking to you as well. Thank you.